get started, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm the Osage County GOP chairman, and this is our first meeting. We thought we'd kick it off with a nice forum to kind of address some of the issues we're facing in the country today. Spend about 10 minutes telling their story, and then when they're all done, like I said, I'll open it up for questions. And we'll just start with Kevin and work our way down. That sound good?
Good.
Okay, and I'll turn it over to them.
I'm really honored to be here. This has been a really good experience for me. Just even thinking about what we've gone through is my journey from Canada to here. October 31st of 22, I became a U.S. citizen. After 22 years of living here legally, and I was a resident alien. That is the expression in the name of when I applied for citizenship. I was a resident alien. I held a green card for 22 years. So on my father's side, we're fifth generation Canadian. On my mother's side, 20 generations French Canadian. And it has been a dream of mine for years to be here. I had a cousin who I grew up with, around, spent a lot of time with. And he lived and worked in Houston half of his life, as I have now. I've been in Oklahoma, not quite half my life. And he just loved the people, and he just thought it was fantastic. I feel the same way. So you're lucky we cut the time short, because I have 120 immigration questions that I had to go and study for. I was going to read them off for you. I figured if I was going to be nervous, you could be too. So let me tell you a little bit about Canada. Why I came here is the dream. Right? It is the dream. But some things about Canada. The first thing everybody says is free health care. It is a little different. Okay, so Canadian health care is not free. It's subsidized incredibly by taxation. And it's usually in the province of Ontario, 25% average is what you're going to see in terms of what taxes and things come in. So big taxation to get that benefit. And out of pocket, $9,500 a family member, same co-pays we have here, same medicine, same cost, so there's no free health care. When I was 18 years old, I collapsed a lung, and they couldn't get it back in the ER. So I sat in the hospital for 30 days waiting for a surgeon to become available, and a bed to become available 30 miles away, where I could have a thoracic surgeon do some miracle work. And this is 4 years ago. But 30 days sitting in a hospital bed at 18 years old with a tube in your side, because that's how the medicine work I did. Still does. My twin sister actually is having thyroid issues, and she had biopsies and tests run, and she's waited 9 months just to get a report on that. Okay, so when you say free, I want you to think this. Free from expediency, free from urgency, and many delays. My brother tore a rotator cuff water skiing years ago. Waited 6 months to see a specialist because of the torn rotator cuff. Then, at my dad's funeral, had to leave immediately because they told him if you miss this appointment, another 6 months. You go see a specialist. I mean, that's how booked and jammed that system is. Cost of living. When I was in my early 20s, I'd say, a 3-bedroom apartment, and I mean, all the bugs you can handle. $1,300 a month for rent. And that same apartment today is $2,500. I'm talking about getting junk, like a run down, you're lucky if the elevator works, and just terrible. To buy a house, my sister just bought a house not too long ago in Brampton, where we were living from. It is the same size square footage of what I have in Cleveland, 1,400-ish square feet. I paid less than 100,000. She paid over 650,000 for the same house. It's, just unbelievable. And that's for a 60-year-old house. You want a new house, that's over $1 million. So it's not a big city, by any stretch. So, federal gas stations. So back in the 80s, the federal government, we had a gas shortage, 70s and 80s, we had a gas shortage. And the federal government said, well, we can't control what Alberta is doing, so we're gonna get federal gas stations. And so Petro-Canada became almost overnight. Well, that was also the time when we switched from gallons to liters. So we were going to the metric system. And they conveniently tucked in about a 10 or 15 cent a gallon raise in prices just by doing that little conversion, little hocus pocus sleight of hand. And you didn't think about it, you thought, well, it's cheaper. Well, yeah, because it's in liters, it's not gallons. Gasoline right now in the Toronto area is around $7 a gallon for the low grade. And it's pretty steadily been $3 a gallon more than we pay here. Second Amendment rights. So there are none. In Canada, you do not have a right to own a gun. You're permitted to own one. So when I was in my teens, a new requirement for 2A was the FAC, the Firearms Acquisition Certificate. So you would go to your local sheriff, or in our case, the chief of police. You would explain to him why you wanted a gun. You'd do an interview. You'd pay him a fee, probably $80-ish, $100, whatever it was. 2 references, and he would call them, and they would explain to the chief why you were a stable enough person to own a gun, what you needed it for. They would cooperate with that, and that's how you would get a permit. So that permit allowed you to possess a gun, to purchase a gun, or to sell a gun. And if the person you were buying from or selling from didn't have that FAC requirement, immediate felony. And $5,000 fine, potentially 5 years in prison. So very strict. And then I just wanted to cover really quickly charter of rights. I learned this. I did not understand this until I first started studying. The Canadian Charter of Rights, you gotta remember Canada is just a little over 150 years old. The Charter of Rights happened in 1992, I think. And it's almost 111 years after the country was created, we have a Charter of Rights. The Charter of Rights only affects the government. It does not affect individuals or businesses. So it basically confines the government and how they can treat you, but it gives you no rights. So none of the rights in the Charter of Rights in Canada applies to citizens. It only applies to how. So you can sue the government if you feel like you've been shorted somehow, and they do. Freedom of religion. So you may have heard, you may not. This one really kind of rings a bell for me. Freedom of religion, you gotta be really careful. They have jailed pastors for using scripture to preach against homosexuality. It is a felony offense to use scripture because it's considered hate speech. So think about that. This is a government which is more interested in, you have heard about the recent trucking strikes we had. I'm so grateful that the Canadian truckers did what they did, but the American truckers refused to go and bail out the government and said, we're not going to do it. In fact, they called American tow truckers to go get Canadian truckers away from the city, and they said, no, we're not doing it. So kudos to them. Freedom of religion, though, as long as you don't offend somebody. And we're getting there. So in Canada, socialism has been entering by degrees starting in the 1890s. We surfaced in 1930 and really gained traction in 1961. when the new Democratic Party came into effect. Our social democratic democracy is a political, social, economic philosophy within socialism and supports political and economic democracy as a gradualist, reformist, and democratic approach by degrees, is what it says, really, by degrees. So it's that little bit at a time, creeping in, little bits of freedom are taken away. And that's how we lose it. And that's how it is in Canada. Thank you.
That's the time when I met my husband, who was from Oklahoma. And I'm not a citizen, I am a permanent resident, and I'm kind of still looking at things with outsider's eyes because I only came here in the end of 2019. Legally, after we had been married 2 years and took a long route. And did it all paperwork ourselves. And I have a little bit of Dutch, not experience. I can't say my niece's husband is Dutch, and they lived in Netherlands for a few years, and then they moved back to Finland. And also I traveled in the former communistic countries when I was young. So experience what it is not to be able to speak freely, and so on and so forth. And Finland is not Scandinavia, but part of the 5 Nordic countries. And has 2 official languages, Sweden and Finnish, because Finland was under Sweden for 400 years, and then 100 years under Russia. And through God's miracle, when Lenin was doing revolution, 1970, he maybe forgot all about Finland, but he had promised Finland independence. And through God's grace, Finland is still an independent country today. And then, Finland has had a very rough history, several wars, and 2 wars against Russia where they took a big part of eastern Finland, actually twice. A huge number of Karelian Finns had to flee, and Finland had to inhibit 500,000 Karelian Finns. So there's many stories my dear parents' generation to tell about Russia and Soviet Union. So I grew up in a country that is, and Finland is not socialist. If anybody thinks Finland is a socialist country, neither are the rest of the Nordic countries. They are market economies, really well-to-do, fantastic countries in many ways. And if you want to read an article, you can go to Heritage Foundation website and read an article about the Nordic countries. But growing up in Finland, and after I was born 1958, and Kekkonen was president for 30 years, and it was always known that Finland has to exercise self-censorship to live beside the mighty Soviet Union. And maybe that's why also, through the history also, as the Finns have been traditionally, at least earlier generations, a very prayerful nation. But things are changing, and not least, of course, with all these attacks against every aspect of society, and all traditional, all Christian, and all traditional values. And they have been very obedient people also. I think kind of very quiet people, very, very hardworking. And by the way, one special thing about Finland is that the war preparations that Russia put on Finland or Soviet Union, after Finland lost the continuation war, 1944, were just extreme. In 1953 money was 500 million US dollars. And that's where the Finns learned to build amazing cruise ships, amazing ships, especially in my hometown, Turku also. Engines, trucks, everything. So I think some of you might have been on cruise ships that Finland has that were built in my hometown. But that said, I think that's also part of the reason that because the society is very well functioning and there is much state ownership and it's has probably to secure infrastructure and to secure industrialization of the country. But if they try and if they sell Finnish state-owned companies, if the government does, things react negatively to it. But they are very trusting people. They trust authorities, they trust health authorities, they trust WHO, and that's what I've seen during the pandemic and what's going on. And everything conservative, everything Republican, in both Finland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, it's always, like the state media is leftist in Finland. There's of course other media channels. My dad used to say that they are all communists. And people have forgotten it. They don't understand, they are brainwashed. So they don't know the truth. They don't know the truth about so many things. And that is why the globalists have also easy access to because people fully believe in the agenda. They fully believe in the climate goals. They fully believe what they are told. And when I tell, like as coming from Finland, coming from Denmark, coming from those well-functioning countries, and I try to tell them about the insanity, total insanity that's going on in this country. With the border, with stolen elections, where Finland has some of the most secure elections you can imagine. When I tell them about what's going on in so many areas, they don't believe. They don't believe. They are blind. They don't see what's going on. And that's why I think that they are also easy victims to the globalists. Like now Finland has got a globalist president, total globalist, WEF disciple. So, and of course they are trying to, over there also, they are trying to, like, you might know the case with the Finnish medical doctor and parliament member about free speech, the free speech issue, how they try to see. So Finland's Lutheran Church is a state church, and there's lots and lots of other church denominations and Christians. She shared a picture from Romans 1, when Lutheran Church Archbishop made Lutheran Church official partner of Pride Parade. And she has been prosecuted for several years now. And it has gone all the way up to the state prosecutor, is the leftist Green Party member, all the way to the Supreme Court in Finland. And of course, nothing came out of it. But they still continue to persecute her. And she says also that if Finland, if this free speech case, if they win, it will affect the whole world. If they win in persecuting Christians for sharing the Bible, what the Bible says. I don't know, I could talk about Finland. I gave a speech to some homeschool kids about Finland and Finnish history, but actually, I want to mention also my ancestor is John Morton, and his signature decided Pennsylvania's thanks to independence. So he's one of the signees. And he's kind of my role model also, and my conscience person doesn't allow me to be quiet. And I think that we all need to, I mean, I've been warned, even my daughter says, she just moved back from after 10 years in London to Denmark, but Mom, you lose friends because you don't keep quiet. And my conscience doesn't allow me to keep quiet, and I think that we all need to be willing to speak up and to do whatever we can. And I would say that, well, I'm doing what the little I can. I'm speaking against and writing to politicians, writing to Kevin Stitt every now and then, writing to federal politicians, talking about the horrendous geoengineering, windmills now, because now they are trying to pressure us with, I know a lot about windmills from Denmark and Finland, and I even think, like, when there was the pandemic I think that we need to really be willing to even, I mean, I would go as far as to say we need to be willing to even to die for the truth, as we need to be willing to die for our, if necessary, for our faith in Jesus. Yes. As I was saying.
Thank you. Oh, it's my turn. Well, my name is Rolando. Hurtado. I'm from Venezuela. I came to Oklahoma, well, it's a long way, 10 years ago, and in December 2015 we applied for a political asylum, and we've been trapped in immigration program for 10 years. Fortunately, last year we get our I-94, that is some kind of green card, and we are basically safe now, because we have deportation orders on my back, and my kids, and my wife. And, well, I'm always saying this first: you never imagine how fortunate you are to be American citizens. Right? Yes. You never imagine how we dreamed this, because some people, well, everyone's talking about that, and you know, Ilka was talking about that. But basically, liberals, socialists, and communists are the same, but those are 3 stages. And even when you are on a step up in that ladder, it's more radical and more radicalized in the process. Venezuela has this unfortunate encounter with Hugo Chavez in 1998, and since he takes the powers, he started to change everything. The first was change the constitution. And for me, it was something that made click in my head when I heard, because, well, when I heard Harris talking about gun control and constitution changes, and when they say that we are here to help. American people doesn't need help. We need our freedom. That's it. Because Venezuela has, we were trapped inside the socialism because they reign by fear, by domination. They had all the power concentrated in one hand. When Chavez changed the Constitution, he put under his hand political power, economic power, judiciary, and executive. He was the king. And then, but for us, Venezuela has the largest reserves in oil and gas, natural gas in the world. So now Venezuela has people eating from the trash with no electricity, no running water. And for example, my mom has 67 years old. My dad has 77. And I have to send money to my dad and my mom and my dad every month. But what I send to them is not enough to support basic necessities. Kevin was talking about that socialism should be free. There's not. Nothing is free in this world. If you go to a hospital in Venezuela, you have to buy the needles, the syringes, alcohol, everything that you need. Even you need to buy the food for the doctors. It's so corrupt, it's so destruction that this type of government is doing to the free countries that you never imagine how scary. You know, the first that I saw the similarities here is they are taking over education. They are taking over institutions. The bureaucracy is so big in this country that we don't know who is ruling the country. Because we have a president, but the president is eating ice cream in the beach all the time. Right?
Yes.
And then we have this lady Harris running around and she is the president, but she is promising that he will be fixing our problems the first day when she get elected, right? Why you didn't fix that now? The border is a mess. I know from, you know, I used to be a sport writer. I love baseball. My job dream was to be a baseball player. But I couldn't. And then I went to college and I get my degree in mass communications. And I used to be a sport writer. And when I was in the college, the first encounter that I have with the socialism is that because everything is free, but you need to go under manipulation process. With the people, I know people that spend 20, 25 years to get a bachelor's degree in a college in Venezuela. Because it's free, no one cares. You know, but the question is that Venezuela is under 25 years in this process. I don't want to live again through this night. If we don't get together, if we don't fight back, we're gone. And this job is not for the people that is here, because you are clear in your mind what you need to do. This job is to educate your kids at home, talk about politics at home, talk about economics at home, talk about society. Have the uncomfortable conversation with the kids at home. Because if you don't have it, someone outside in school, they will brainwash your kid. And I read, you know who Karl Marx is, right? I read The Capital when I was 14. And I thought that Cuba was a really example of freedom. Because Fidel Castro and Che Guevara fight against the empire. Because that is what the teachers taught us back in South America. That this country is the evil empire. That is destroying all the stuff around and sucking all the resources for all the countries. And you know, When I came here, it's totally different. This is the land of opportunities. I came here with $400. And I have a house, I have a car. My daughter is a college now. If you work hard, you can have everything you want. If the government say, I have this for you, just don't take it. Don't take it, and just to finish. I never had a gun in my life. I get a gun like 2 months ago. Woo! Because if you want to defend yourself, you need to how to fight, how to speak, how to rationalize, and how to discuss. And I'm teaching my son is 12, and I'm teaching my son how to handle the gun, and I'm learning in the process. But my final message is never get your guns.
That's right.
Never get your guns. If they will be getting your guns from your bad hand. Because they take our guns in Venezuela, and with the same guns that they take from us, they arm gangs, and they start to step in the neck of people. If you open your mouth, you're done. That's socialism, that's communism, and nothing is worse than censor yourself. Just try to speak the truth and be a good man, be a good woman, be a good kid, be a good son, be a good husband. And I think that's the secret. But we need to fight back. We need to fight back. Because it's, well, I think if I'm in Venezuela now, for sure I will be there, or in jail. Because my rights are not negotiable. Because it's a division. When Jean rights start, mine finish. It's a division. You can cross my space, and I can violate his space. But all the stuff with the, with the sexes and with the sex and genders and all that is just another type of manipulation. They are, to control. And I just want I hope that people open the eyes and take the right decision, because it's not, we need to fight.
Good evening. Thank you. Can you hear me all the way back?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of loud sometimes. Good? Perfect. My name is Jean Gamara. I live in Armour, southern Oklahoma, Tarrant County, with my wife and my 3 daughters and 2 sons. My family and I, we run a small Takeover school in southern Oklahoma. I'm also have a professional career. I can say that I did live the American dream here in the United States. I'm originally from Peru, by the way. Thank you for inviting me tonight. Also, I want to make sure that I do that. It's a nice trip from southern. Very good trip. I'm honored this past July to represent the Oklahoma as a national delegate from the Congressional District 4. I was able to go to Wisconsin to the Republican National Convention thanks to the people that elected me to nominate President Trump to be the 47th President of the United States. So before I share my story, I think it's appropriate to start with the Bible verse from the Gospel according to St. Matthew, chapter 7, verse 13, in which Jesus says, "Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide, and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it are many. I came to the United States legally over 20 years ago from Peru. Since becoming a naturalized US citizen over a decade ago, I never voted Democrat. And you wonder why. Democrats have embraced very bad communist values, proposals, agreements, statements, anything that they can call it. They don't need to call themselves communists. They do that work. And you have to understand that. And Dick Brown is going to tell me, communists will never say, we're communists. Never. They won't do that work though. They will make sure you understand that they are the ones controlling society, the country, and they are God. That's what they want to make sure the society understands. Communists destroy countries. Communists bring violent crime, inflation, and create more poverty. Communists only bring death and misery. I witnessed this firsthand in my native country of Peru back in the 80s and 90s. I never imagined that I would see the same thing happen in the United States, but it is. So in the 80s and 90s, the country was lured by a very young, handsome president. The whole South American region was polluted by socialist ideas. Venezuela, Peru, Bolivia, Chile, we were getting these Marxist, leftist ideas. But it always comes with a very beautiful face, young ideas, modernism, or something else that can lead the population to believe that everything comes easily for a better society, for the common good. Well, in the 80s and 90s, we got the worst economic collapse in Peru. One day, my family, they used to have their savings, their bank accounts, in 24 hours, disappeared. They changed the currency, and you never seen inflation. How much it is right now? 30% here? And talking to my colleagues, they said, how bad it can be with Kamala? 100%? You have never seen 1,000% inflation on 24 hours. Is that correct?
Yeah.
24 hours.
Venezuela has 2,000% of inflation in 24 years.
Which means that all your supply chain will be destroyed. Why? Because if today something costs $1 and tomorrow can cost $1,000, what am I going to do as a salesman? I'll keep my stuff for tomorrow so I can sell for 1,000 times more. So, reduction, suppression of goods, no food. Then you have terrorist groups coming up to you because when there's a tragic moment, economic moment, you want to save it. Well, we have a Maoist group named the Shining Path. This Maoist group started on the rural areas of the Andes of Peru, where they started indoctrinating kids on the provinces, telling them that we gotta have a solution. We gotta go after the government, we gotta go after the people that has the most, take their things, so we can be equality, right? Well, this brought a lot of terror in our country, a lot of death, a lot of blood, everywhere, all over the nation. It was terrible times. All our electric grid were disappearing on a daily basis. We got blackouts every day because somebody put bombs on the towers. Or I was probably having breakfast when I was 8 years old, and suddenly, in front of my house, the car bomb blew up just to terrorize the people. So the more terror that you can have, the better. People will be on chaos. You have presidential candidates being shot. You remember that, what happened with Mr. Trump? Same thing. That's common in South America, in Mexico too. They kill candidates all the time. That's a big sign that socialism, communism is attacking your country when there's no freedom at all to even elect somebody on your own will. So that's one of the big factors that actually threw the country down to its knees. Well, that didn't last much. With the help of the United States, we were able to recover. However, communism and socialism ideas, they don't go away. You can put these socialists or communists that attack your countries, put them in jail, and they will never forget what they are. They can come back and they will still scream, life to socialism, life to communism, because the idea is always there. In Peru happened the same thing. Just recently, in 2015 and 16, we have a flood of people coming from Venezuela because they want to escape out of communism. So they illegally cross our borders, millions. What the government did, they gave them citizenship. They gave them welfare. So what happened in Peru? A lot of crime, a lot of people, a lot of mess. Well, I just recently went to Peru 2 weeks ago. I was in Colombia too, and they're very concerned about what happened in the United States. They're very concerned about the state right now. But what I noticed in Peru is something really weird. There's no crime, and there are no many Venezuelans anymore. Guess where they are? Here. They brought the crime here, and they're not coming with Venezuela citizenship because they obtained Peruvian citizenships and Chilean citizenships. So all these gangs are here. So it's very important that you understand how much socialism, communism, whatever you want to call it, it's just godless ideas can protrude your country and destroy it. It's nothing wrong to say, stop, what you're saying is wrong. We are a Christian nation. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't need to tolerate this at all. We did not have any luxury. We don't have a constitution that tells you have a freedom of speech. We don't have a constitution that says you have a Second Amendment where you can own guns at any time. We didn't have that. You own a gun, at least in my country, Peru. If I own a gun and I try to defend myself, most likely I will go to jail just because I'm trying to protect myself. You can do that here. That's why I believe this is my last stop. This is my last point of seeing things and protecting my family. This is where I can come out here and speak up freely and say, please do not surrender. President Trump came out after so much hardship and said, fight, fight, fight. That's what we need to do.
Here, that's right.
I was born in Romania, and I consider myself a dinosaur of the communist bloc. Why? Because today communism, like you heard before, is mixing with socialism, and it's painted as a desirable regime. But I want to make the distinction between what socialism and communism is. Because socialism is the bridge between capitalism and communism. Right. The major difference between socialism and communism is the method of takeover. Socialism believes that it can centralize all control of the individual, land and industry by peaceful and gradual legislation. So what do you think we have in America right now? Right? Whereas communism seeks a violent and final confrontation to eliminate all dissension to achieve what? A utopian goal of stateless and classless society. Romania became communist after the Second World War II, when it was depleted, bombed by the Nazis, bombed by the Americans because they had a fascist government at that point. And people didn't have guns, there was already hunger and destruction. So it wasn't very hard after the treaties of the alliances and after the war, it wasn't very hard for the Russians to come and take over. And during the 50s and 60s, they did the purging. What is the purging? When they come and take all the influential people of the society, teachers, professors, pastors, writers, and they put them all in prison. Why? Because they had the power of, like we have here, the First Amendment. And the influence, exactly. So maybe some of you have heard of Richard Wurmbrand. He is the founder of Voice of the Martyrs, which they have the headquarters in Bartlesville. There is a museum there. If you haven't been there, take your kids, grandkids, your neighbors, your family, go and see the Wall of Martyrs. Martyrs for Faith. Richard Wurmbrand had written a book called Torture for Christ, and now there is a movie. You can purchase it from the same website at Voice of the Martyrs. He was the only one that escaped communism after 14 years of imprisonment, 2 or 3 years in solitary confinement. And he lost a lung and a kidney in prison. And he spoke before the Congress, the American Congress, in 1963 or 68, something like that. He was purchased by, I think, the Finnish government with $10,000 because life has a price in communism. You can sell people for minimal prices. We had infiltrators in the underground church where I grew up, people that will spy and go and report to the the Central Communist Party. My mom was a teacher, a Christian teacher in a public school. She was the only Christian teacher there in that public school. And she was called one day before the principal and asked her to not go to church or she would lose her job. But she declared, I would rather sweep the streets than deny my faith in Christ. And why is that? Because she saw the miracle of God bringing me back to life. When I was 2 years old, I had encephalitis. I contacted a virus. Now they're thinking that maybe it was through vaccination, by the way. That left me paralyzed, and I was in many thousands. I was a survivor because children of that age usually die from that kind of infection. And I was left in a paralyzed, in a state of paralysis. But I didn't have a wheelchair growing up because healthcare is all centralized in communism. And we didn't have a car. We had food shortages. You have to stay in line every morning to get bread and milk. We had heat shortages. They would cut the heat in the winter. We had hot water only once a week for 2 hours. They would cut electricity every night, so I had to do my homework at candlelight. And everything was done purposefully. Why? To break the spirit of the people. On December 16, 1989, so 35 years ago, the year I finished high school, Romania was dark and gloomy, and the young generation was without a future. On that day, the revolution against the communist regime began in my hometown, Timișoara, where army tanks, our own army, and troops fired shot at the people that were demonstrating in the streets. Over 10,000 people died during that time. Our city was under siege. The borders had been closed throughout communism. You couldn't get a passport only if you had a purpose to travel within the communist bloc. People were escaping Romania, risking their lives. That's how I came to US. In 1994, I broke my leg in post-communist Romania. The doctor was drunk. You had to bribe the doctor in order to survive, and I was left with my broken leg in my arms overnight. And When they did the surgery, they put a plate with 6 screws. A week later, 2 of the screws popped to my skin, and I developed big wounds on my back. And I was septic and I was dying. I got out with a congressional letter from Senator Nichols here in Oklahoma, and I came with nothing, just with a suitcase. So I experienced a little bit of the American dream, rebuilding my life from nothing. And with God's help, I was given a purpose. And this is the time that I was born for. I was forged in a fire for such a time as this.
Amen.
Because I do not want to see and live again what I lived in communist Romania. And there's so many stories that I could tell you. I'm in the process of writing a book. When COVID happened, I knew that was planned. I didn't get the shot, and we never shut down, by the way. We brought people in our home and we had church there. And we continued to, my mom almost died in the hospital in 2021 because 2 doctors decided not to treat her. They put her in the hospital and they wanted to put her on a ventilation, and I said no. They hide her paperwork, and I had flashbacks of communism invasion again here in America. That's when I decided I needed to do something and become more vocal. I became a precinct chair, a state committee woman in Rogers County, and also I was elected as a national delegate for Congressional District 2. And now I continue to work with local groups, the precincts, and travel across the state. I'm part of the Freedom Brigades as a community director here in Oklahoma. And I think we need to, how do we fight back? We need to get involved in our communities. We need to talk to our neighbors. We need to tell them the price of freedom is not free. And what will it take for America to wake up in this hour? The elections are very important this year. This might be the last time we have free election. In communism, you don't vote. They elect themselves. The elites rule. And we cannot allow that here. So get involved. Get 10 people with you at the vote, at the voting poll. Volunteer as a poll watcher. Go knock at your neighbor's door. This is the time. If we don't do it now, it might be too late after November. If you have any questions, I've got a lot of things to share. You can talk to me privately after too. And let's save the country.
I'm going to start off a question I have first, and I'm going to open it up to everybody else. Rolando, in 1987, I was in Caracas, Venezuela. It was a thriving city. You didn't see people starving, you didn't see people in the street, you didn't have the gangs. What changed?
You know, the problem with Venezuelan people sometimes is that they want everything for free. At some point, people lose like motivation, and you know, the problem was that we had 2 political parties, green and white, changing spots every 4 years. And then when Chavez tried to take the power he was military, and he tried a coup d'etat against the president in 1997. There was Carlos Andrés Perez. and he lost, and he was in jail. And after that, he just, from nothing, received a pardon, and he just jumped to be a presidential candidate. And he, promised to destroy the barriers between the classes. Everyone will be the same. We have oil. People doesn't need to work here. A state will be giving everything to you. You don't have to worry about that. And then when he won the elections, he started to turn the wheels. He started to take the companies from private investors. He started to concentrate all the power in the central government. And then we start to say, hey, what's happening here? I was in college when that. And everyone says, we are not Cuba. We will not finish it like Cuba, and we finish it worse than Cuba. Now the government sells to you a box of food every month with lentils, oil, vegetable oil, rice, pasta, no meat, no chicken, sardines, no milk, and then they control the natural gas that you need to use to cook your food. And then you need to go to the house of the people that is in charge in your street and put your name in a list. I need 40 pounds a cylinder of gas, but you can be waiting for the gas for 6 months. And that's what in that point is when the government says, I have everything to give you to be happy, and they want to destroy the classes and make everyone dependent from the government, concentrate all the jobs, and you practically have no rights to speak, because if you open your mouth, you lost your source of income, right? And that is the problem with socialism.
Sounds very familiar. A lot of the kids today think socialism just hasn't been done correctly yet.
Let me add to his statement at the very beginning when he says people want everything for free. You hear that very clearly, right? All right. There's a sociological state of mind that we got to consider. And I tell you this, a comment to Wayne earlier about how people are thinking in Latin America now. And you ask anybody that is in a professional state, let's say somebody middle class, graduated, high degrees, or somebody poor, you ask them, simple question, would you like to live in a country, a capitalist country, where you can work hard, have a product that you merit, and create business, and make your hard work and you get your product out of your sacrifice? Or would you like to be in a socialist country where government gives you everything for free and you get everything taken care of by somebody else? You guess what it was the answer? Every single one wants a socialist government.
Wow.
And now, I recommend you to read a book that she actually got that, The Naked Communist. This is a book wrote back in the 60s by an FBI agent, a good one, by the way. Mr. Cleon Scalzo. This book has been written on hundreds of languages. And this is used on most of the counterterrorism and intelligence agencies all over the world for training. I'm going to read you something real clear so you understand why this type of mind to be taking care of somebody else comes along. And I just want to quote what it says there. Karl Marx set out to create a race of human beings conditioned to think like criminals. This Marxist man is also known as the Homo Marxian, also like Homo Marxist. It's a person. The Homo Marxian is a real person. The criminally conditioned mind of a Homo Marxian does not respond to the way normal people expect. If a person invited the Homo Marxian into his home for dinner, the Homo Marxian would survey the home and take inventory of the homeowner's possessions, ignoring the warm sincerity and friendship of the host. Instead, the Homo Marxian would conclude that the host was soft-hearted and soft-headed, and not deserving of so many fine things. He would then spend the rest of the evening figuring out how he could return in the darkness of the night and relieve his host of all his treasures. This state of mind that is being protruding on societies has been for decades, I would say almost 100 years, let's put it that way, and is always luring the people to get something easy without sacrifice. Sacrifice is very, very important for us. We're here tonight, taking our time. We're gonna participate in the elections, taking our time. We come here and even the lady said, we gotta sacrifice our lives sometimes. Martyrdom is not bad. It's actually give you virtue and give you salvation. So I just wanna make sure that type of idea. I went to Peru 2 weeks ago. That's what they want. I can't believe my friends, they are high economists. One of them used to work for the Petro conference in Peru. High families, I mean, Peru rich people. And they tell me, I'd like to be someday in a socialist country where they pay for everything. That's incredible.
Kevin, did you have
Just,
to add?
just really, we've never met, us five, never met. Three of us have quoted Cleon Slavik, the Canadian communist. 1964, I believe. Read it in the congressional record on January 10th, research it, and you'll see they laid out, a senator, I believe from either Ohio or Florida, laid out 28 things that a communist regime will do to a country to enable it to take control of the country. And they, I won't read them all, but listen to this. Capture one or both of the political parties in the United States. Get control of schools and teachers associations. Soften the curriculum. Gain control of student newspapers. Infiltrate the press. Gain control of key positions in radio, TV, and pictures. Eliminate all laws governing obscenity by calling them censorship and violation of speech and free press. Break down cultural standards of morality by promoting pornography and obscenity in the media. Present homosexuality, degeneracy, and promiscuous as normal, natural, and healthy. Infiltrate churches and replace revealed religion with social religion. Eliminate prayer, any phase of religious expression in the schools and the grounds that violates the principle of separation of church and state. And the list goes on and on and on. There's dozens of things that have already happened, or in the process of happening, that have been revealed to us for over 50 years. I'm 61 years old. That's the year we read into the record, so 1963.
Yeah, there are actually 45 goals of communism.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you can Google it up, and you'll see that most of them have been already fulfilled in our country.
Exactly.
Well, it's something that I know how the media work because I've been there for 20 years inside the monster. And I remember that I used to work for a newspaper in Venezuela that belongs to a guy that has a construction company. And you can't use your freedom of speech to write something against the construction company because the owner doesn't permit that. And then that is what's happening here. I know somebody that works for CNN and basically they say, if you have nothing against Trump, doesn't work. We don't use anything positive with Trump, just negative. And something that I just mess, I have a source in Venezuela, I have friends still over there, and then, when they close prisons and they send people around South America with Venezuelan money with the money that they gave with the sale of the oil, they send people to Peru, to Bolivia, to Colombia, Argentina, to destabilize the region. And what he says is true. All these people came here by the open border with Venezuelan passport, Mexican passports, and $20,000 in cash. You want to go to America? Grab this $20,000. Just go and destroy. Because that's what they do. It's the same script that they apply with the Bolshevik Revolution, with the Cuban Revolution. They apply in Venezuela, they apply in Bolivia, Peru, Argentina. Now it's in Colombia, and now it's here. First control. You know that Venezuela has just our currency is the name is Bolivar, but we can have dollars over there. It's prohibited. Just the government has the control over the money, and then the way to control the investors was if you are against me, you have no dollars, and then companies bankruptcy, they get this costs $5, government bought for cents, and they operate that for 2-3 months, they destroy. The economy of Venezuela is destroyed, and I think most 75% of all the people is working for the government, and then they can do it.
We're getting pretty close there here. Any questions for any of the speakers?
For the Finland, I can't say your name, I'm sorry. You said something when you were talking about what the people of Finland think about the U.S. today. I think you mentioned something in your, what would they think today about where we're going as a country in the U.S.?
Well, recently I talked to my closest friend in Denmark when I was there. Was it April? Jumping back and forth to Finland. My mom passed away in March. And then I said something about that they are pursuing, the Democrats, they are pursuing communism. And she got really angry with me. She said, like really, communism, what do you mean? That cannot be true. And I tried to explain some of the goals to her. But in general, I can say that in Finland, Denmark, Sweden, everything Republican has always been blackmailed. All Republican presidential candidates have been blackmailed in the media. Obama is just a big star. They have no clue what's going on in the US because they just follow their leftist media.
And is that similar with other countries? That are out there?
Same thing in Denmark, same thing in Sweden. I have been attacked in church. I have been attacked at work in Denmark because I supported Trump, because I very early, because when my husband started figuring things out. So they have no clue what's going on in this country, and they think that everything about Trump is bad. And Trump, it's really hard to talk even with them about anything. And they can't see, and I wanted to say also, you talked about that, how everything became so expensive. Like the globalist takeover is taking place there. It's different than, it looks a little different than in Venezuela or those countries. But like last year, for instance, they think everything has become so horrendously expensive because of the war in Ukraine. So they don't have a big picture, most of the people. And like oil, gas prices, electricity got just horrendously expensive in Finland and Sweden, at least in those countries. And when I go to food stores there, I'm absolutely shocked when I see the prices. So it's,
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
agree with that because I have friends almost in every country in Europe, and Europe is under the power of the community, the European community, which is a globalist tool.
absolutely, 100%.
So, yes, so everything is expensive, the mind control to the media is happening. I had people asking me recently, even from Hungary, asking me, why do you stand for Trump and not Kamala Harris? And I had to make it clear who she is, and you know, Kamala Harris, if you look at her up, she grew up in a communist family. So she was a communist activist here in the US. Europe has been, for years now, has had socialist healthcare, it's been invaded by illegal immigrants now. Italy was the first country that the Chinese virus came in, and it's been taken with the 5G, which is also another part of the communist and the globalist agenda, which right now I call it communism on steroids. That's what's going on that you see here in the States as well as in Europe and in other countries around the world. Look up, you know, what's been happening in Australia as well during COVID, and how they start taking people's freedoms little by little, and it trickles at every level in our society, and this is why it's important to get involved in the local government, to go see what's going on at the school boards, at county commissioners, and city council. If you never run for a position, if you have conservative values and you care about your future generation, your children and your grandchildren, please go and stand up and make your voice heard. It is very important. I never thought I was gonna be running for any position, and now I'm thinking I cannot stop because there's so much that they have taken from us, and they want to still take the rest and everything. But the globalist, you know, the Great Reset says you'll have nothing and you will be happy.
And I'll add, if anybody's interested, or family members interested in running for anything from school board to any of our positions, that's where the Republican Party can help. We have resources to guide you, get you started. Sometimes people think that's a daunting task, starting from how do I get involved to run for office. Well, we have a wealth of knowledge, and we can help with anybody that's interested in running. Robert, you had a question.
Yeah. We in America think that this is never gonna happen to us. It doesn't affect us. It doesn't impact us. I worked for Williams Oil and Gas for several years. I was their disaster recovery consultant. I was over all of their infrastructure, all of their IT, all of that and protected. Jeff spoke about the fact that he was in Venezuela several years ago, and it was a peaceful, a place that you can live. Okay? I'd like to thank this whole panel, by the way. Kevin's a dear friend of mine, so all of you, thank you for being here. What I wanted to say here today is, yes, Venezuela was a place that America wanted to invest in. Williams Oil and Gas had billions of dollars invested in Venezuela. They were producing unbelievable amounts of oil. America, Canada, Venezuela, they were the major producers. It turned, and it turned, and it got worse, and it got worse. It got so bad that the employees for Williams Oil and Gas, I was asked to come down several times on our corporate jet. I was asked to be down there to help them with things. I said, no guys, I know what Venezuela is like today. I'm not stepping foot in Venezuela. I will not. Oh, it's safe, Robert, it's safe. If you go in the right areas and you're with the right people, it's safe. Can you imagine you can't go in places as Kaiko because it's not safe? I'm sorry, that's not right. But what I wanted to say is this. Thank you for saying what you said, each and every one of you. Our people that was with Williams Oil and Gas, citizens of the United States, investing billions of dollars down there, made it so profitable for those people to live. When it got bad, we had to kidnap our people. Not only our people and their families, they left everything behind. We had to smuggle the people from Venezuela out of the country with us, or they would have all died. The children, the wives, the fathers, everybody. We brought them back to the United States. They had a special team set up in Houston to provide housing, food, clothing, provisions for not only our people, but all of these Venezuelan people that worked for us in that country. They worked for us, but they would have died if they'd stayed there because they worked for us. They seized billions and billions of dollars worth of American assets that was ours. We owned them. They took them. We sued them in world court. We sued them. And guess what? We won. We beat them. You know how much money we got back? Thank you very much. Zero. That's what communism did to Venezuela, or did they also do it to America? They did it to our people, our employees. They had to smuggle and leave everything they had behind and escape from Venezuela undercover. Guys, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take up that time here. But guys, everything that you guys went through, each and every one of you, bless you. Bless you, bless you here. And thank you for bringing us.
Yeah, I want to know what the contingency plan is if that laughing donkey gets in office.
I might have a good idea, and it's something that I mentioned to her and Charity.
I can tell you what the veterans say, it will be a civil war.
Yeah. So we always started on a little thing about tolerance, tolerating things. It's like putting a frog in a boil of water, they start warm, and then little by little they die because they don't know they've been boiled. So talking truth is not a problem. Political correctness is a big issue. American society, American citizens are very polite people, very charitable. They're the nicest citizens in the world. They go to other countries. I always joke to my wife, when Americans go to other countries, they dress as tourists. And we know they're tourists because they dress like it. So you can't tell who is an American or not. I figure out myself because sometimes I do the same thing. But it's very important that political correctness goes out in your set of mind. I'm gonna give you a little bit of how truth is very powerful to call the truth out when something is wrong, when somebody comes dressed up as a drag queen, you have to call her out. That's not right. It's satanic.
Yes.
When there's this gender ideology comes out to your mind, or to your kid's mind, call it out. Yes. Truth is very important.
Yes.
I'm going to read you the most beautiful gospel that it calls my attention every single time that I go to Mass. It's the gospel according to St. John chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by Him, and without Him was made nothing that was made. In Him was life, and the life was the light of men, and the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. When you tell truth, darkness disappears, cannot understand. A lie is a lie, And truth brights your mind right away. Even when you kill me right now, it's true. I understood very well that when my grandparents escaped from terrorism from the Andes by feet all the way to the capital, about a week walk, escaping from communists that they're trying to make them join the Communist Party. They were about to get killed. They took everything from them. They said, we're not gonna join this Communist Party at all. Because what happens if you don't join them? They get rid of it. Simple as that. So they escape, they kill you. Like you said, they take everything from you. That's what happens. The only way that communism and socialism doesn't like is when you call the truth. That's the solution. Political correctness, kind of it. Tolerance, kind of it. You always tell the truth. You don't need to tolerate things at all. On the schools, on the neighbor. If your neighbor is a communist, you need to call it out. I did. I'm sorry, my neighbor, he was acting communist. And I told her, sometimes a communist doesn't even know they're a communist. They're acting like it. But they don't know, they don't have shirts saying, I'm a communist. No. Fidel Castro never said himself that he's a communist. He always said, I'm not a communist. But he was acting like it. I got, I guess, the pleasure to go to Cuba on the 90s, back like 50 pounds ago. When I was a little thinner, I was a Taekwondo fighter and I got invited to train with a Cuban team. Well, I went there and most of the athletes, they were suffering from starvation. Talking Olympic athletes with gold medals. Starvation. And some of them, they can't get food. I was with my regular clothes, towels and other just normal clothes. They wanted to exchange it for anything for me, because they cannot have anything from their countries. Me coming out from Peru, which is a third world country, seeing the poverty of communism, it was strong to me. I mean, it's like horrible idea. So, again, the best solution for me to say is starting right now calling the truth out. Do not tolerate anything, no political correctness. You are not rude, please, Americans. I'm myself too. We are not rude if we call out truth. It shines the light on darkness. Very important to
Do
know.
you have a question?
No.
I have to say
I've got lots
something
of questions, but they're not.
related with, you say, it's, like I feel is we are sitting in a boiling pot, you know, like a pressure stuff that is spinning and spinning, and you know, the government, Democrats, they are creating the right situations with all the stuff with the racism. I'm black. Everybody in this room can call me black. I have no problems with that. Because you need to call the stuff by the name. I'm black. I'm proud to be black.
Yes.
Yes.
You should to be proud to be white, and you
Yes.
should to be proud to be a woman, right?
Yep.
And that's what we need to do, is stand together. And, you know, I have this conversation. My wife told me one day, you will be in a huge problem in some moment of your life because your mouth is so big. And my wife is 5'5", but he is a honey badger. I never have picked a fight with my wife. Never in my life. I just say, okay, it's good. I'm 6 feet tall. I'm 248 pounds. And I'm afraid of my wife. No, please, no one say that to her. Well, and I work for Baker Hughes. And then they had a prohibition to talk about politics in the company. And I talk about politics, I don't care. And it's a guy in the office and says, do you see the debate last night? No, I don't like politics. That doesn't affect me. What did you say? You didn't vote? No, I don't vote. Why? It's your right. You're taking your rights away, you know you are castrating yourself. And then, if you have a person by you that you heard saying that, just take it in the hand, go with him to the voting booth.
I've said for years, the two things that tell you not to talk about, politics and religion, are the two things you shouldn't do.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
You know, because politics is everything. It's everything.
You Chad?
I work as a precinct judge in our Pawnee County, and I'm really concerned, a little frustrated with the turnout. Specifically, I can tell you in our precinct itself, 20% maybe turnout to vote. Unless you think this is a new problem, Plato, one of the penalties of refusing to participate in politics is you end up being governed by your inferiors. I want to read this. This was a remark I found, and I do a lot of research on this, but one final quote from Thomas Paine, author of Common Sense. These are the times of tried men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny, like hell, is not easy conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we obtain too cheap, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives everything its value. Heaven knows how to put a proper price on its goods. It would be strange indeed if so celestial an article of freedom was not highly rated.
My husband and I, we've often also talked about why pastors are silent. And I haven't read, my husband reads unbelievable amounts. I don't read quite as much. But the book by, what's his name? Eric Metaxas' book, The Letter to the American Church. And we've spoken with one pastor in our town, and he's not willing to open his mouth, and it bothers us very, very much. The pastors are silent. Yeah. And I think about often the song I first time heard is B.G. Bonhoeffer's poem, and that's made to a song and also translated into English when he was in concentration camp. And like Eric Metaxas also says that in Hitler's Germany, Eric Metaxas also said 1,000 pastors in the US spoke up about what's going on. They would not be able to get through with their evil schemes.
Well, they count on our being quiet.
Exactly,
Not talking, not discussing.
And the Bible tells us to expose them.
I want to make a comment, Jeff, in regard to this conversation. There's a book called Shepherds for Sale, and it's about the Marxist takeover of the seminaries and the churches, and this has been playing for decades. It's called Shepherds for Sale.
Yes, it's part of the 45 communist goals to take over the church. And I think at this point it's not a political issue anymore. It's a spiritual fight between good and evil. It's a moral issue as well. So we need to stand up for what is right, for what is true.
Okay, any more questions? One last question here.
It's not really a question, it's more of a statement,
Okay.
but since everyone else has done that, maybe good. One thing I'd like to point out is if you look around, for the most part here, there's not a lot of what I would call middle-class parents, citizens, because they're busy. Because they're too tired from working their butts off, they're stressed out, and they've pretty much given up on our election system. So I think we need to focus more on in-person community because they've got us isolated. You think you're crazy. I mean, the other day, someone said, well, you're just too abrasive. That's why you don't have any friends. I'm like, oh, I don't have any friends. But Tucker Carlson in Tulsa recently said that they don't just lie to you, they accuse you of the very thing they're lying that they're not doing. You're not they're racist, no, you're racist. And then it starts to mess with your head, and you start to feel so crazy and isolated, and you start to hate people. And so he said, don't hate people, and don't lose your sense of
If
humor.
we ever came together, see, it's wedge issues they create, and they divide us. That's how they control us. And that's what our CIA does overseas. The more they divide us, the more they control us. If we ever just got past all that and came together, there was nothing they could do to control us.
Divide and conquer. That's
Yeah.
the message.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would like to invite everybody, I'm part of a group that goes around and prays at the courthouses. We've been to 76 courthouses in the state of Oklahoma. And, we do our declarations and decrees and, spiritual warfare. And it's very powerful. 8:30 a.m. Friday morning, if anybody would like to come, the more there, the better it is gonna be. I think that we're gonna start clear down the strongholds of these judicial systems, and that's a big part of it. So,
Where is that?
Rogers County,
Rogers County is the last one, right? on
last
the
one,
list.
77 counties.
So, quick, question?
Would it be permissible for me to make an announcement or extend an invitation?
Sure.
I don't know if everybody, my name's Roger Eastman, I live up the street here, and I just happened to find out about this just a few minutes, half hour ago. I had work to finish up, so I had to hurry up and get it done, but I wanted to come here to meet up. Is anybody familiar with the John Birch Society? Sure. Okay, there's a chapter that meets right up here at the Ascension Church, the first Tuesday of every month. And we got a few of us in there. I'm not even a member. You don't have to be a member to show up and participate. But we educate, we talk about an issue that's upcoming in legislation or something that needs attention in our district. And the goal is to get 500 people tackling the same issues, talking to educate our legislators and influence them, and of course each other. But we need help. We need people to come.
For the people that don't know, can you explain what John Birch Society is?
I'm not a representative of John Birch Society. The John Birch Society is just basically, it's a nonpartisan group that is focused on the Constitution and maintaining and staying in strict adherence to the Constitution. And so, like, they have a freedom scorecard, they call it, where they rank all politicians on their score on constitutional votes, right? So if somebody has an 80, that means 80% of the time they vote with the Constitution. If they have a 30, that means 70% of the time they don't. But we do stuff like this. We meet, there's one that meets up here on Tuesday, there's one in Sperry that meets the second Tuesday, and there's one in Owasso meets. I'm not sure of the information, but right up here, Ascension Church, at 6:30 to 8 o'clock, every Tuesday, every first Tuesday. And you can come up and check it out. And we just need people on the same page, bombarding our congressmen and senators and local with everything, with whatever they need to know, and whatever we can do. So we really need some help.
Thanks.
We use a lot of people.
We have one more question?
Thank you.
I just had one question for you. Yes or no? Does indebtedness cause a lot of these problems?
In your country's communism and the...
Because when I graduated from high school, the debt was only $907 billion. That was 1981. We're at $35.3 trillion just in 24 years.
Or is it the government printing to give the free stuff to move you along toward communism?
Yeah, that's why we have that kind of inflation in communist countries, because when you print money without backup, you have like cash flow in the street because people is receiving money without work, you know, like subventions and all that. But when federal inflation is created, it's nothing like it's spontaneous. If you read Milton Friedman, you will understand that, because federal government print money without backup, inflation goes up because you have money running in the streets, and you have more power to acquisition, you know, and then people start to buy. But that money, where it goes? Go back to government, and then it's the same circle. It's the same circle. It's the same circle.
I want to add to this, it's part of destabilizing our economy here in the States. The inflation part the illegal immigration, the displacement, the massive displacement of people, bringing them over from one area into our country is all part of destabilizing our stable economy that used to be stable and not anymore.
This is the first year I've noticed where we're gonna spend $1 trillion just on the interest alone.
Right?
You just add that up in 5 years, that's another $5 trillion. If somebody gets in office, it doesn't matter whether it's Donald Trump or Harris, they're gonna blow it up to $8-10 trillion.
Yeah,
in 4
but
years.
the only question is that all the stuff that the government, well, Democrats are doing now, and they blame the opponents, you know, you lying, you cheating, you're stealing, is all the stuff that they are doing. You know, I don't know if you know about Joseph Goebbels. He was the mastermind of the Nazi Communist Nationalist Party. And he says, blame your opponent about the stuff that you're doing. And never forget that Stalin was teamed up with Hitler to destroy the war.
We're gonna have to start wrapping it up now. I wanna thank each one of our speakers. Can we give them a hand?